this. Welcome to Grape to Glass, everybody. It is June, and I've picked a couple wines for June from our Mari's Pick selections, featuring tonight our Merlot and our red blend. So I'm just super excited to be sharing these with you. We've got a full house on, and I've got Chris Whitaker on the line too to help me guide you through this, and we can answer any of your questions in the chat box. I will be taking live questions as we take a break in between the two wines and of course after. So go ahead and pop in, introduce yourself in the chat box, say hi. I see a lot of new faces on here, and this is one of my favorite parts of my job, which is doing virtual tastings with all of our cause entrepreneurs and Grateful Club members across the nation who gets to come to Napa Valley for the night from their own home. I think it's unheard of. I'm pretty sure you guys are the only ones who get to do this. So let's have some fun. I'm going to share some fun tips with you guys tonight. So I'm actually going to start with our Merlot. I shared before we started this presentation a little bit about my love for Merlot. It was the first wine that I loved on my winemaking journey. It was the response to one of my interview questions. What is your favorite wine? And I was just barely 21, and I said, Merlot. And Merlot's gone in and out of fashion, right? We've seen it, and we've seen it go in and go out, but I'm going to share some of the things that I love about Merlot with you guys tonight. First of all, I am going to pop this sucker open, and it makes it pretty easy. Our Vintner collection, for anybody who's new, is all in screw cap. That's intentional. It's not because it's cheap wine or less quality. It's because I really believe, and our winemaking team believes, that these wines are best under screw cap. So that makes it pretty easy to open. And I just had to mute somebody here. All right, there we go. So go ahead and pour yourself a little glass of this Merlot. Tonight, I am actually using stemware. I know it's kind of rare that I'm using stemware. I use just about any glass because I truly believe that you can enjoy wine in any kind of glass that you want to enjoy wine in, and use any shaped glass. But because it's summer and it's already warm out, by the time I take wine out of my cellar or out of the fridge, it doesn't take long for it to warm up. And then when I have my little hot paws on the glass, it's just heating it up more. And I like the wine in the summer, even reds, if you can believe it, to be a little more chilled. When wine gets too hot, it's really hard to enjoy it. So it's really best if you can serve it between, I would say in summer, ideal temperature would be like 65. Once you get over 70, it's just really hard to pull out some of the aromas because the wine isn't held together with that temperature as well. So I like to chill the whites or reds and the whites, and I'll even chill my reds down in an ice bucket in summer. Especially the red blend is one that I recommend doing that with. So we've got a little bit of our Merlot here in our glass, and I like to use the 3 S's. If you've taken my Introduction to Wine course, you've seen that I've simplified all the S's. I think there's up to like 5 or 6 S's that people use when they are guiding wine tasting. But I really like to simplify it to 3, which is swirl, sniff, and sip. That's pretty easy, right? But swirling is not only fun and becomes a habit once you start doing a lot of wine tasting, but it also allows all the aromas to come up out of the glass so that you can appreciate it and enjoy it more. It's like when a flower is closed and then opened, right? And that if it's a rose, for instance, once it's opened, you can really smell what that smells like, and stop and smell and enjoy and appreciate that aroma. So this is kind of opening up the wine the same way you would open up kind of a flower and be able to access all of the wonderful aromas. So this is one of my favorites. I can smell right away some of the like berry cobbler notes coming out. And I've got some fun facts about this Merlot too. Where does Merlot come from? Well, it translates to little blackbird in French, which I believe is because the grapes are very small and they're black. They're so dark that they're black. So it's the little blackbird. Merlot by nature has a lower tannin than Cabernet Sauvignon, which make it excellent for blending. And it's also very easy to enjoy and appreciate because it's got so much fruit, so much expression, but it doesn't have all that tannin, which can be it can be too much, right? And so Merlot kind of has just the right amount of tannin. And our Merlot is barrel aged in French and American oak for about 12 months in our Vintner collection Merlot. So when you go ahead and swirl your glass and sniff, for me, I was smelling like blueberries and blackberries right away and a little bit of that berry cobbler and kind of plum in there. There's a lot going on in this wine right now. And actually, this was one of my favorite wines to make when we introduced the Vintner collection because it's so complex and so rich. And I think one of the really most intense reds in our Vintner collection lineup. But here we have the notes, which are our flavor profile notes: dried cranberry, plum, a little hint of tobacco leaf, not actual tobacco, but tobacco leaf, and vanilla. The vanilla comes from our oak aging. And on the dry to sweet scale, this is balanced right smack in the middle. It's got a lot of juiciness from the fruit expression. It's not too dry, and it's also not sweet. The wine, in terms of acidity, is also very balanced. It's in the middle. It's not really crisp and high acid where it commands food, and it's not super soft or what we call flabby either. It's kind of held together in the middle. And that's how these wines are really meant to be made and enjoyed. And then in terms of body, I call this medium bodied. It's definitely not light bodied, and it's not as big and rich and full bodied as some of our reserve reds that I would compare it to. So it's medium bodied, really meant to enjoy for a lot of different occasions. So go ahead and swirl. I can see some of you, and sniff if you get any of the notes that I'm talking about. And share maybe some of your thoughts in your chat box. All right. So when it comes to food and wine pairing with this wine, I love a classic spaghetti meal. I think there's nothing wrong with that. If I was going to enjoy this wine with family and friends, you know, a really nice rich pasta dish could be amazing with this because it has so much complexity. It's so rich and robust. It's really an opulent expression. I also love roasted vegetables with Merlot because the earthiness of and richness of the roasted kind of caramelized vegetables makes the fruit really explode and pop in this wine. And if you want something really fun, you can do carne asada, which is, you know, a really nice grilled meat that will hold up to the wine. The wine will really explode and burst with flavor. It's so complex and rich, and that little bit of tobacco note really plays well there. And you can really dress this down in that way. So if you're having a midweek meal, you're doing something like carne asada tacos or carne asada salad, this would be a great pairing. You can also do this and recommend it with your hosts. If you're hosting a One Hope wine tasting, you could definitely do some kind of carne asada dish that would be light and not be too expensive either. And then I love cupcake pairings because they're really nice, single servings. So you could serve this at the end of a tasting event with a vanilla cupcake, for example. So those are just some of the fun pairings. And of course, on the back of the label, we've got pairs well with carne asada, cupcakes, staycations, and sunsets. That sounds pretty good to me. It does make me want to kind of curl up, stay at home, and sit out on my patio. So this bottle helps fund education resources to help prevent heart disease, and that is our cause of choice. On the back label, you can find all of this information, which is what I love about our Vintner collection back labels, and you even get a statistic like heart disease accounts for 1 in 7 deaths in the US. And I'm not promoting drinking red wine to combat heart disease, but I did hear a rumor that it actually may be helpful. So win-win. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat box and see if you guys have any questions on the Merlot before we go over to our red blend. All right, so I've got a question. Hi, everybody. We tried the Moscato tonight, and we wondered if you actually like all the varietals. Do I actually like all the varietals? Yes, I do. And let's see. Ohio is thankful for the cupcake pairing. Yum. Awesome. So I just always like to, spur creative ideas for hosting. When you're hosting wine tasting events, you can do something super simple, super easy that you can even buy at the store. It doesn't have to be homemade, but is still like a winemaker recommended pairing. Vanilla cupcake is pretty easy to find at the store, and I think they're pretty inexpensive. They even make those little tiny ones, and it's just a great addition to your tasting. So go ahead and splurge and try a new pairing with this wine. But it is really, truly great. It's one of Bordeaux's 5 grape varieties in a Bordeaux red, alongside Malbec and Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. And it really is a beautiful wine. I can't talk about this enough, and I think it's underappreciated. So I really was excited to be tasting this tonight with you guys. Next up is our red blend. Now, I do get questions like, why did you select these wines for Mari's picks for this quarter? And June is why. June is actually why I picked these wines, because they're perfect for the barbecue. They're perfect for right before 4th of July. All the barbecuing and outdoor activities with Father's Day and graduations. It's like, these are my go-to wines because of carne asada and because of, the roasted vegetables, the grilled flavors, and the celebratory cupcake pairings. All of these are reasons why I find them to be extremely seasonal for the weather changes and all the celebrations that we have. So the red blend is our Vintner red blend, and it is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, and Merlot. I really do love this wine. Whoever asked me, do I love all the wines? Yes, I do. Wholeheartedly and unabashedly, I love all of our varietals. But the red blend I have a cool story about too, because I was at a wine tasting fundraiser in Rutherford, where our flagship vineyard and winery are located. And I was there with a lot of people who've lived in Rutherford for a long time. And they tasted our red blend and they said, oh my gosh, those grapes must be from Rutherford. This tastes just like Rutherford. And I almost died. I was so excited that they said that. And I might have shared this with you, a few of you on Facebook Live if you were tuning in. But the reason why I was so excited is because these grapes actually are from all over California. They're from the very best locations throughout California that offer the flavor profile that mimics what we do at our flagship winery in Rutherford. So our iconic winemaking team is the team that makes all of our California Vintner Collection wines. And we try and emulate and choose and select from the regions throughout California that mimic our own flagship terroir. So our own flagship flavors from Rutherford. And so the fact that somebody from Rutherford validated that made me go, this is so awesome. And that's why I love this red blend too, because what does Rutherford taste like? Let's just dive into that since I've got you here and you're tasting live from Napa Valley. You might as well know, right? If you haven't tried one of our estate Cabernets, which is from Rutherford and from our single vineyard, then I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and then we're going to taste this red blend and understand what it is. But Rutherford has a lot of what we call the Rutherford dust, okay? It's the soil that actually creates this special flavor that's almost like a cocoa powder. So if you guys use cocoa powder in cooking, not hot chocolate powder, actually cocoa powder, right? It's a little bit bitter, but it's like silky smooth, a little bit like having dark chocolate, but in this powdered form, right? Which is softer. And Rutherford does create this expression that's like a cocoa powder covered dark cherry, like a very ripe, delicious, like the best dark cherry you've ever had, right? The one that doesn't even make you like wince and scrunch your face because it's too acidic. It's like perfectly ripe, dark black cherry. And that's Rutherford. That's what it tastes like. And it's got this intensity of this dark black cherry, but it also has this extra layer of cocoa powder dust. And that's really special to Rutherford. But we find a little bit of that in this wine because we have intensity of fruit and we have a really nice aging, which actually helps mimic it's what the barrel does in this case, the winemaker spice rack, which actually does kind of finish off the wine with this sort of cocoa powder finish. So this one, I dig in and I swirl and I sniff and I just get so much of this berry cobbler, but right now I'm getting more of the actual berries, right? All these dark red and black fruits and that cocoa powder with a little bit of spice. That spiciness also comes from the oak and barrel selection. Now, when you compare this to the Merlot, there's like a lot of stuff going on, right? With this wine. I mean, it smells amazing. There's sort of this like explosion going on in your mouth. There's like a tannin and a balance that's really different than a single varietal, right? And red blends used to be all the rage. And then we went through this period of what we call the fighting varietals in American viticulture and wine, where it was no longer popular to be a blend anymore. You had to be a single varietal, and that meant berry quality. No more blending, no more creativity. It was all about quality and single varietal. And now we kind of have an appreciation for both, right? In this tasting, we get to have an appreciation for the single varietal that is also in this blend. And then for the blend, being able to use some Zinfandel that really brings out a lot of fruit. And also for Cabernet Sauvignon that allows this to have a little bit more tannin, a little bit more density and weight. So again, here, the profile is really similar from a standpoint of it being very balanced, okay? It's not overly acidic. It's not overly dry and tannic. You don't have the drying tannins on the side of your mouth from the barrel aging because this is aged in oak that actually contributes to that cocoa powder, that dust, and that spice. Pairing suggestions for this, I'm going back to the barbecue. I'm going back to the barbecue, but I chose arugula salad on here, not because it's only in season, because it's truly probably a little earlier in spring, but you can find arugula in most of your stores. It's an earthy flavor, but it's spicy. And so it really lights this wine up. And when you want to get creative and you think about, okay, well, I could do a burger and add arugula on it, or I could serve this side salad with my barbecued ribs and feature this wine. So you can use it in different ways. I also love pizza on the grill, and you could do a great pizza with prosciutto and top it with arugula. That's another one of my favorite foods to enjoy with this type of wine. A grilled bacon burger, you can't go wrong here. Bacon, it's hard to go wrong with bacon, but truly a red blend pairs really well with bacon because the pork, the flavor is so rich that it really needs to stand up with a wine that also has a lot of richness and a lot of fruit. And the red blend probably has the most fruit of all of our Vintner collection wines. It's just got a lot of that really rich berry cobbler, a lot of dark cherry, blackberry, so mix of blue and red fruits. Also, barbecued ribs, another favorite one in my household, and a little slice of berry pie with this wine would be amazing. What happens when you pair a red blend with flavors that it's like a berry pie? Well, what happens is you get all the spicy notes coming out of the wine, because when you pair like with like, you get something else, something more complex and interesting to pop out of the wine. But when you pair the wine with something more earthy, like the arugula salad, you get the fruit to pop out. So like with like usually kind of explores what other complexities are in the wine. And this wine has a lot of spiciness from the oak aging, a lot of richness, that cocoa powder. So the berry pie is also a great option. And I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm thinking about hosting, and I'm thinking about having, just a little like serving size cup piece of berry cobbler. So really easy, but just a nice bite size treat to kind of talk about this wine and explore some of the tasting notes and invite people in, right, to discover their own tasting notes. Because we're never like telling people what they're tasting. We're just inviting them to explore maybe what they notice about the wine, what they like pairing the wine with. And so on the back, we do have our, let's see, that's upside down. We do have our berry cobbler, spice, and cocoa powder, pairing with our grilled bacon burgers, berry pie, and shooting stars, guys. Pairing this with shooting stars. I'm down. 'Tis the season. So that wraps up our 2 wines for tonight. And I am going to open up the chat box and see what you guys might have in terms of questions. And then I'll open it up for live questions. Do you recommend Vintner Collection over Reserve for snack time pairings and Reserves more for dinner pairings? You know what, Melody? I think yes. I mean, in general, I think yes. It depends on where you are and who your audience is and what the type of event is. But I think our Vintner collection makes great snack type pairings. The price with Case for a Cause really allows people to enjoy it for parties and more kind of as, a wine during the week. Having said that, though, there were a lot of dinner options on the wine pairings that I think should definitely be considered because these wines are really meant to hold up to a lot of different foods. So yeah, you could use more snack and bite-sized pairings. I'm doing that, though, more, I guess, just out of thinking about how we can help hosts create a great experience for their guests. With a Napa Valley wine collection. And so I guess it is a little bit of both. I said yes, but actually Vintner really does pair well with some of the entrees. And you could make great snack bites with the reserves too, especially some of the whites. The bigger reserve reds that I'm thinking about really are great with kind of a more hearty meal. Because they take a long time to open up, which is part of the beauty about enjoying these wines. Is they take a long time to open up, they change over the evening, and really do command a little more time and attention to be spent. But I hope that answers you, Melody, but you can certainly enjoy Vintner Collection with dinner pairings. But in terms of hosting, there's a lot of great options too. Is there a list of what's in the blend? Is there a list? Yes, there is. I believe that it's on the product page when you go to onehopewine.com. And the red blend is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Zinfandel. But you can find that on the product page online. Can you typically find the blend information in, oh yes, okay. Thank you for answering that. Okay, yep, we got answers. And I love this. Everybody's chiming in about their favorite pairings. That's amazing. I love it. Red blend and bacon. Yes. So the fun thing about giving you some of these pairing suggestions is you can take off and get creative. If you love BLTs, we'll use that. Have a BLT, and serve those at your next event or party. But you can take a lot of these ideas and create your own special dishes. What would you say the type of spices in the flavor profile? I've gotten questions that haven't been able to put my finger on it. Great question. I think some of the spice is cinnamon. There's also a little bit of clove and a tiny bit of allspice. So a lot of the traditional baking spices, I think, can be found in the red blend. What types of cheeses or olives would you recommend for these types of wines? That's a great question. There is a type of green olive called the Castelrano, I think it's called, olive, and I love that for wine. I also like the oil soaked. They're a really dark black olive, and they're an oil soaked olive, and I think those are excellent with Merlot and red blend. And they have they've been oil soaked, so the pit is really easy to get out of them. I find those to be my favorite for wine pairings. I also like to buy kind of bulk olives and then marinate them by adding some olive oil and rosemary or lemon rind and putting that out when I'm entertaining. And in terms of cheeses, for the red blend, because there's so much fruit, I like a creamier cheese. So something more along the lines of, a really true cream, triple cream brie cheese is kind of ideal because it really just allows this red blend to expand and have so much more fruit. And it's really nice. Then with the Merlot, I tend to probably recommend a little bit more of like the harder cheeses. You could do a Manchego cheese, for instance, that's a little more earthy because you're going to pull that fruit out. So you're going to go a little more earthy, and then that fruit will come out more low. So that's what I would recommend. I also love feta cheese with wine. It's a great addition because it is so salty, and that really plays well with wine. Salt is always great. So I am looking here. I think we've got everybody looks like they are still here, and I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Oops, I have one more. When is prime to drink the 2014 Estate Cabernet? That is a great question. The 14s right now are tasting really, really good, but I think they've got like another probably, at least 5 years that you're going to be able to enjoy those. Kind of in their prime is probably the next couple years, but they'll be great for a long time, for 10 years. Those are really nice wines. The 2014 was a really great vintage. So I would say, to 2026 is probably a good drinking window for those. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope we had a couple grateful club members, and I'm excited to be inviting you guys here. This recording can be found later in the resources for our cross entrepreneurs to share and to reference. And as always, it was just so much fun tasting with you guys, and thanks for coming. Cheers, everybody.